Cynicism is just another form of cowardice. For our sergeant are not interested in a midlife crisis. We were to do our freaking work.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Spotlight Podcast, Success Stories for Veterans, where it is our job to break down and analyze heavy hitters in the military and civilian communities to discover their tactics, their mindset, and their systems so that you can take those and apply them to your life. Those heavy hitters range from New York Times bestselling authors to former heads of state and to other divergent thinkers who dominate their field by challenging conventional wisdom. And today we are interviewing Maximilian Uriarte. And many of you know Maximilian from his comic Terminal Lance, but today we're going to go behind the scenes with him to explore how all of that came together. Take notes. Today we have a special guest in studio with us, and I'm going to try to not butcher this. Maximilian Uriarte.
Close, and that's good. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
I had that name on my chest for 4 years, and nobody ever pronounced it right.
I'm not surprised. You got a lot of people from the South.
Yeah, it was funny because whenever there was roll call, I knew when my name was coming up because they'd be like, Thompson, and they get to the U's and they would just stop. They'd be like, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. I know who you're trying to say. It's me. I'm right here, Staff Sergeant. Don't worry about it.
Did that result in any interesting nicknames?
Well, it resulted in my actual name being my nickname. So when I got to my unit at 3-3 India Company Weapons Platoon, Assaultman section,
shout out.
Shout out. They looked at my name, and I remember one of my corporals. He was a old timer, and he was getting out old timer in Marine Corps lingo, meaning he was just on his way out, and he looked at my name tape, and he's all like, "How the fuck do you say your name?" I don't know if we can curse on this show.
Well, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. He's like, "How do you say your name?" And I'm like, Uriarte. And he's like, "That's too hard. What's your first name?" And I was like, Max. And he's like, "Okay, we're going to call you Max from now on." And then I was just Max. Everybody called me Max.
The only person in the Marine Corps is going by their first name.
Right? Yeah. Even my first sergeant would call me Maximilian every time he saw me because I don't think he knew how to say my name. He was like, "Maximilian, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Good, first sergeant."
He's like, "I don't want to embarrass myself." I have the unfortunate reality that my last name rhymes with everything. It's Honeycutt.
Yeah, I saw that in your email. I was like, "Is that your real name?"
Yeah, that's the real deal.
And that was on your chest.
H-Cut. All right. And it was right around the same time that song, What in the Butt, was very popular. And so very quickly I became H-Cut in the Butt.
Okay.
And that was pretty much my squadron nickname for eternity.
Wow.
Till the day I left as a sergeant.
Yeah, that's the thing about names in the Marine Corps is it's on your chest. And so if you have a bad one, one that rhymes with something bad, or it's just spelled in a funny way, you're going to live with that for your entire enlistment. Yeah. It never goes away.
H-Cut in the Butt was by far the most tame.
H-Cut in the Butt. Okay.
H-Cut in the Butt. So there it is. There it is, Spotlight World. That's me. So
I'm down with that.
So just a quick background for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, though I can't imagine there's many. You said you're formerly an 0351.
51.
Assaultman. So what's different about an assaultman versus?
A typical rifle company is 4 different MOSs. So there's 0311, which is the standard rifleman. Mm-hmm. They're the everyman. And there's the 0331, which is machine gunner. Everybody loves them. We all know who they are. 240, 50 cal, Mark 19. And then you have the 0341s, who are the tube strokers, and they are mortarmen, and they shoot mortars at things and play spades all day. And then you have the 51s, and we were always sort of like the bastard children of the infantry company. We sort of we're similar to an 0311 in that we're more of a rifleman, but we use demolitions as sort of our specialty. So. Typically in the 0351 course, they teach you to shoot rockets really well. So most infantry guys will never shoot a rocket in their entire enlistment. They'll never really get a chance to use an AT-4. I remember when I went to SOI, they had, I don't even know if they still use the AT-4 anymore. I think they switched the law a while ago. But when I was at SOI, they had 4 live AT-4s on the day that everybody was doing AT-4s, which was a rocket launcher. And so those 4 Marines got to shoot one. and that was it. You were taught how to use one because they had the trainer ones that shot bullets.
That's what all us pogues used, was a little 9mm
Yeah, a
tracer
little
round.
9mm tracer round. But most Marines will like never shoot a real rocket in their career. 0350 ones, I shot about 20 of them,
Nice.
which is cool because you get to shoot a lot of rockets as that job because that's really your main function. Is theoretically it's supposed to be a anti-tank / breacher guy. So if there's like a wall or a gate or something, you're supposed to breach the entrance with a rocket and blow it up and whatever. Obviously in Iraq, there weren't like tanks and stuff. So we didn't really do that. I got turned into a machine gunner. So I became a 50 cal gunner like immediately after we got
Nice.
there. But yeah, so the assaultmen, and they're actually phasing that MOS out now, which sucks because I'm going to be totally obsolete. But the 0351, just basically we learn demolitions like a combat engineer. So you learn all the C4 and the TNT and blasting caps, and we do a bunch of blowing stuff up, and then you learn rockets, and that's sort of your main thing. So that's an 0351.
It's fantastic.
Well, so the problem though is that there's not always a defined role for that. So like a machine gunner, you always need a machine gunner
Right.
in like a nest in like a any position, and you always need mortars to back up the rifle platoons. But in a 51, it's like I don't know, maybe you'll have a rocket on you or whatever in certain situations, but. In my experience in Iraq, at least, and I know it was a little bit different for the guys that went to Afghanistan and beyond, but in my experience, none of the 51s actually did 51 stuff. We just did, again, I got turned into a machine gunner, and our whole section got turned into a mounted platoon, and we just drove around and did that kind of stuff. So
That's pretty fascinating.
they basically treat you just like a smarter rifleman. They're
Okay.
like, oh, what are the 51s doing? Nothing? Okay, make them do this thing that the riflemen are too dumb to do.
Oh man, you're gonna catch some heat for that one. Huh? Email Maximilian.
No, I love 0311s. They're the
Yeah.
best. This is an aside. This is a random story, but
Let's hear it.
So one of the things that 51s get taught is called APOBs, and I don't know if you ever heard of this thing.
I am not familiar.
So it's a minefield breaching, minefield clearing device. So you basically have these two 50-pound backpacks, and two Marines got to lug this thing around. And when you get to a minefield, you set up the APOBs, and you set them up in a certain way, and then you connect the connector together, and it's like a bunch of socks filled with grenades in like a big line. It looks like anal beads, you know. It's like a I don't know what the rating
Now
is on
I'm
the
clear,
show,
yes.
but yeah. So it's like a long sock filled with grenades, and it has a rocket attached to it, and the rocket shoots up, and it creates a big line. The line blows up,
Okay.
and then you have a clear path forward through the minefield. So that's the thing that you actually have to learn as an 0351. So we did a range at 29 Palms once, range 400, and my squad got tasked with the APOBs. And it was me and one other Marine, and we had two APOBs systems. So I was a squad leader, so I sent the two guys, that one team with a different squad, and then myself and another 51 that was with me. We were a separate team, and we went with a different rifle squad to run this range. And I didn't want to carry a 50-pound pack, so
I can't imagine why.
yeah. So it's a long thing. It's like an all-day thing. You got to run around with this 50-pound pack on your back. So I went up to one of the rifle squad leaders, and I was like, "Hey, look, man. I don't really, like I got to like keep a clear mind to be able to be a squad leader because I got to like lead these Marines and everything. So can I get one of your guys to carry this pack for me, and I'll tell you where to deploy it and everything, and you'll just follow me." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So he gave me one of his 311s. I can't believe they bought it, but they just, I don't know if he just didn't care, but
That was your first foray into marketing right there.
Yeah, right. That's
your first big pitch.
People don't understand. I'm a pro skater. Like when I talk about skating on Terminal Lance, like I was an expert skater in the Marine Corps. So I had this poor guy, lugging this 50-pound pack, running behind me like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I was like, you're doing great, man. You just follow me.
This will totally pay off. This will be critical for your career.
Yeah,
Be sure to help your cutting score.
You're doing fantastic. And then, we deployed it and we did the thing and it worked and it was pretty funny.
That's fantastic. You sharpened your skates that morning.
So I love riflemen. They're the best.
That's good. So, and since the Marine Corps, you've also done, you started Terminal Lance and you've done White Donkey.
Yes.
And which is a graphic novel for those of you who don't know. And then there's another book on the way. Which
brand new book. Literally just finished it officially. And it's called Battleborn, Lapis Lazuli.
That's awesome. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's you and I Tarantino this thing just a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend too much time on the Marine Corps because I'm very fascinated with what you did post-Marine Corps. But you told a great story last night when I was at your presentation about why you decided to go in to the Marine Corps.
Yeah. I don't know if you mentioned it, but I'm sort of just visiting Spokane right now at Gonzaga University. They invited me out here to do work with some veterans and do a presentation about my work and everything. And they've been super awesome. So I'm really excited to be here in Spokane. So my entrance into the Marine Corps was really unorthodox because, or at least I think so, because I was first and foremost an artist. And that was actually the driving force behind why I joined the Marine Corps. Which doesn't make sense to people, but
I'm sure it's hard to explain in Burbank.
Yeah, I feel like most artists like me are very driven by passion. And so that's sort of all you care about, and you make gut decisions and you go with feeling. And as an artist, I knew I wanted to be a storyteller. I always wanted to be like a storyteller, a filmmaker, make graphic novels and that kind of stuff. And I knew that if I was going to tell interesting stories, I would need to go experience something terrible or something just crazy. And I was 19, full of angst. And, I was like, I'm an artist. And Mom,
were you starving yet? Yeah.
No. I was at community college in Portland. I was at Portland Community College. And I remember I just sort of thought about it. I was like, God, I want to I need something to really give depth to myself, and that's ultimately the goal, right? You try to find some soul enriching experience that informs your work. So I was like, I'm going to do the craziest thing I can do. I don't know. I'm 19. There's a war in Iraq going on. Why don't I join the military? And I'd just been thinking about it. And one day I was at Portland Community College and I walked out of the cafeteria. I always want to call it a chow hall now.
Oh, yeah.
I can never use the word cafeteria anymore. It just sounds weird.
Yeah.
So I was walking out of the chow hall and I see these two Marine Corps recruiters sitting there and they have a little table kiosk set up, and he looked right at me. I guess he could tell I was an easy mark. I don't know. He just looks right at me. He's like, have you ever thought about joining the Marine Corps or joining the military? And I was like, you know what, I have. And I pulled up my chair and I sat down right across from him. He's like, oh, hey, cool. Why don't you come down to the recruiting station at Eastport Plaza in Portland? And we'll do the ASVAB and we'll do some testing and see, what jobs you qualify for, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, great. So I go down there and we do the ASVAB and at MAPS, obviously. And so we do the whole MAPS thing. Do the ASVAB, come back to the recruiting station the next day or whatever. I can't remember exactly how long that takes, but come back and he's all like, dude, you did fantastic on the ASVAB. You got a 92. GT score super high. You can do whatever you want. And I'm like, cool, I want to do infantry. And he's like, are you sure? Because you really don't have to, man. It's usually what people choose when they don't qualify for other things. And I'm like, no, man, that's the only thing I'm joining the Marine Corps for. To me, to get that kind of soul enriching thing, I felt like, a lot of people join pogue jobs. I say that with respect.
That's fair.
A lot of people choose pogue jobs because their idea is, I want a skill that's applicable when I get out. Yeah. So, which is a practical thing to do, but artists aren't practical people. They're driven by emotion. So, I needed something that was crazy. So, I was like, I signed up as a 0300 open contract with the intention of going to Iraq. I was like, all I want out of this is to go to Iraq. and see it. I want to see this shit that's going on with my own eyes because I feel like that's what I need. And I was like, what's the quickest way to get to Iraq? Join the Marine Corps Infantry in 2006. So that's what I did. And that's how I ended up going into, and then when I got to SOI, that's when, if you're an 0300 open contract, which most guys are when they join infantry, then you pick which 03 job you want when you get there, and they do testing for each one. So yeah, so that was sort of the story of how I became an 0351. I saw they give you a little list, and you're like, oh, assaultmen, they use rocket launchers? That sounds cool. Let's do that. Then you got to take some math tests and stuff, and then you're pretty much in. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's did it accomplish the goal of informing your soul the way that you thought it would?
I don't know. That's the thing. That was the theme of the White Donkey, right? Which was finding what you're looking for, and that was this sort of recurring thing in the book, and that was really the central arc of the story. And that was my story. Was I was searching,
Yeah.
And actually, Abe's name Balatsko is Basque for searching, which people might not know, but
you heard it here first.
So, giving away all these like secrets of the book, no little Easter eggs, And I don't know, Abe's journey was fiction, and he found what he was looking for at the end of the story. And for myself, I don't know. I don't know if I ever did find what I was looking for, but I started to think about like maybe that was the point. Like maybe there wasn't a thing I was supposed to find. So I don't know. It's a good question.
Just on that topic, I think that's a pretty common veteran condition is getting out of that in the human condition of you. At least for me, I had this idea and this notion of what the Marine Corps would be or what war would be like because I went to Afghanistan in 2009, and you're hunting for this purpose, this meaning. All of my family had been in the military before, and you don't find that thing. And, and then you have this existential crisis on the back end. Yeah. And you're like, I don't know what to do with this information. And it's just like trying to hold sand because you can't really grab onto it. Yeah,
I think that that existential crisis is really, in my opinion, the leading cause of veteran suicide. And I think that's like, people struggle so much when they come out of the military of finding that meaning either in the experience or what they're doing now. And that's something that it is probably the hardest thing to get over for a lot of veterans. My existential crisis was just, again, like the crisis was I wanted to go to Iraq to be a better artist. And that was sort of like trying to find that thing. So when I got out, I didn't really struggle too much with it because I already knew what I wanted to do. And I knew from the beginning, I knew way back before I signed the contract, I'm going to do 4 years, I'm going to get out, I'm going to use the GI Bill, and I'm going to go to art school. And that is literally exactly what I did.
Okay.
So I just stuck to the plan from the beginning.
Well, you took my next question right out of my mouth was, what made you decide to get out of the Marine Corps? And so it seems like that was just part of the game plan.
I decided to get out of the Marine Corps about 30 seconds after I got off the bus. And get on the yellow footprints, and there's like some sweaty guy yelling at me 3 inches from my face. I'm like, why would I stay here? Like, maybe I won't re-enlist. And then from that day, I was just counting down the 4 years.
Were you ever tempted?
No, never.
That's fantastic.
Maybe it's an infantry thing. Maybe it was just me. I felt like, God, as soon as I got there, I was just like, I don't want to be here. And I spent my whole 4 years just being like, I don't really want to be here. This sucks. This isn't fun at all. So for me, like I had a pretty clear idea that I was not going to re-enlist, like from the get-go, and I stuck to it, and I just didn't. And I was so like, I think people think Terminal Lance is like not serious about how much I hated the Marine Corps, how much I hated being there. But I made it because it's all true, because that was like really how I felt about it. And I think people think I have this like endearing love for it. And I have endearing love for Lance Corporals because I love them. They're my favorite people in the world. But being enlisted, like I wouldn't do that shit again.
No,
ever.
No, never. And I agree with that. And I think that was one thing that you were discussing last night during your talk, is that you've kind of created and identified this new market. There was nothing making fun of the Marine Corps up until that point. And what I've been so floored by with Terminal Lance and White Donkey is how you strike that balance between making fun of the Marine Corps, but still giving love to Marines, and specifically Lance Corporals. I mean, obviously NCOs get it for sure.
Yeah. For me, like I always just try to, I think that like the sort of the key of Terminal Lance is just humanization. And I think that a lot of people dehumanize military in general because they're in a uniform and they're all just,
we're all robots,
quote unquote, brainwashed or whatever. And like, so for me, like I always just, when I think of Marines, I think of them as just people. Like I was there, I'm a person, right? So, I mean, they're all people, right? And they must feel the same things that I was feeling. So that's sort of the thing I try to bring to Terminal Lance. It's just like, these are people, and being miserable in the field sucks for people because we're humans, and humans don't like being all wet and cold and angry all the time. Like, so that's just what I try to bring to it. It's just an honesty. And every Terminal Lance comic strip kind of starts on the same floor of the realities that I saw in the Marine Corps that I didn't think anybody was talking about, which is nobody wants to be here and it sucks. And, you pretty much just start every Terminal Lance comic strip from that basis, and you can make a joke about anything. And it's like, just keep that context to it.
What's actually fascinating is I know a lot of officers because I was a pogue. Right, and I was a flyer, right? So I was a crew chief, so I interact with officers a lot. You know how many officers that I know that just absolutely love Terminal Lance? I think it's fantastic. It's a ton.
Yeah,
it's an absolute ton. So
I'm always happy. Anybody, everyone's welcome to read Terminal Lance, and as long as people understand that, like, the perspective is never going to go away from the Lance Corporal. Mm-hmm. And I actually saw people talking about me on Reddit. Because I browse Reddit because I'm just like, whatever.
You're stalking your haters.
Yeah, right. No, I came across the thread. It was about Terminal Lance. And, I was like, hey, what's going on here? And they're all like, I really hope Max grows out of this Lance Corporal thing. And he's got to, like, grow out of the thing. And he's getting older. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm getting older. But Terminal Lance is a brand. Yeah. And Terminal Lance is for the Lance Corporals. And that's the only people it will ever be designed for. And I keep it on that level because I think that's me being true and faithful to my audience who expects that and wants that. And it's great. Like, I think a lot of veteran brands, I think it would have been so easy for Terminal Lance to, like, slip into the angry veteran thing. And, like, I could start a coffee company and sell, like, butthurt T-shirts, butthurt coffee and butthurt T-shirts.
Like dysfunctional veterans.
Yeah, right. It's so easy to slip into that. But I found that Terminal Lance is designed for active duty Lance Corporals, and that's really who it's for. And that's my core audience, and that's all I care about. So I don't care if veterans that are no longer in the Marine Corps think that Terminal Lance is too immature or whatever. It's like they're getting older, they're moving on, fine.
Yeah.
Terminal Lance is a brand, though, and it's designed for Lance Corporals. And I get 200 DMs a day on my Instagram from Lance Corporals in the Marine Corps sending me funny videos of stuff they're doing, of stuff that's going on, and they want me to post it and they want to make fun of it. And it's like, that's who I love. And those are the people that I'm catering to, if you could.
That Instagram is incredible. I was showing it to my wife just yesterday, and there's a Lance Corporal smoking 2 cigarettes through his nose and 1 through his mouth. And she's like, oh my God, is that what people did? And I was like, yeah, that's what you married.
Yeah. And I love it, though. I absolutely love it. And I'm not joking when I say that, Lance Corporals are my favorite people in the world. They're just, God, they're so funny. They're the funniest people on the planet. And they're the most imaginative people on the planet. Yeah. I remember one time I was having a phone conversation with General Neller, and he had some concerns about the Instagram. And
I bet he did.
Yeah, he was like, hey, so, I just wanted to ask you, like, at what point are you showing Marines doing funny stuff that they do, and at what point do you cross the line into the Marines are acting like an ass just to get on Terminal Lance, and like just to are you influencing their behavior? Yeah. Essentially, is what he's saying. And my answer to him was no. I really don't think I am. I think that.
That's just the stuff they're willing to videotape.
Yeah, right. I think that the Marine Corps actually creates a monster, right? Mm-hmm. So they imbue these young men and women with a sense of adaptability and invincibility and boredom. And Marines are smart. They really are. And this is the thing. I really do, no offense, we have a Navy veteran sitting here. I really do think Marines are like the smartest of all the branches. And it's not like an ASVAB score kind of thing. It's really like an adaptability kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they're so ingenuitive. But that's in the training. That's part of boot camp. That's part of the whole thing. They're trying to build this independent, adaptable monster. And what happens is when you put a bunch of those adaptable, independently minded monsters together and they're super bored and you leave them alone for 5 hours, they're going to find really dumb ways to entertain themselves. And that's why Terminal Lance exists, because they created this thing that will find super inventive, super stupid, and hilarious ways to entertain themselves better than anybody else will, which is why you don't see anything like Terminal Lance from the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. It's just that Marines have this weird knack for being super entertaining and finding just amazing hilarity in just dumb things and thinking of new ways to do it. And so I think the Marine Corps created that monster, not me, personally.
Neller is definitely going to hear this and cringe. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I've never laughed so hard in my life, like before or since. I mean, just even when we were in Jacksonville, North Carolina, it just got crazy. So let's talk about post-Marine Corps, right?
Post-Marine Corps.
So you obviously have been doing Terminal Lance. I think a lot of people are familiar with that. But can you talk about the decision to make White Donkey?
Yeah. So I talked about this last night. I started really writing the White Donkey. Writing's a weird word for me because I'm not a writer. I don't call myself a writer. I'm an artist, and I think very visually. Mm-hmm. So the White Donkey for me was never like words. It was always visual. So and this is everything that I write. So when I think of a new script or I think of a new story or a graphic novel or a movie or whatever, I see it in my head. I see it in front of me as like a vision. And I see it like, it's almost like a movie trailer, you know? So I see it and then I see these scenes and I see what they look like. And then I got to pick and pull them and figure out how they work together, you know? And that's what writing is for me. So I started thinking about the White Donkey in earnest. It really started, I call it baking. It's like baking in my head. Mm-hmm. It starts baking in my head, you know, and then eventually it finds its way onto pages. But I started thinking about it in 2010. So it was really when I just started Terminal Lance. And I knew I wanted to do a kind of memoir like Marine Corps experience story to kind of really show what that experience is like just as a storyteller and get it out there and really distill down to its just core, no pun intended, of what I felt like that experience meant. Mm-hmm. And really, really cut to the bone of what all of this bullshit means. Because I got really tired of the sort of cliche military stories of like patriotism and like saluting flags with teary eyes and just, you know, just the whole like just the kind of cliche visuals and you know, I didn't want to tell that story. I wanted to tell what I thought the Marine Corps experience meant. So I had to really cut deep into it and really figure out and be honest with myself and be honest with the experience and not sugarcoat it in any way and just tell a story that was really about it on a deeper level, if that makes any sense.
No, that absolutely does.
So yeah, I thought about it for a long time and it was something that I had flirted with for a long time and I was like, man, I really want to do a graphic novel. I thought about doing a graphic novel for a long time. I knew I love comics. I was a big Captain America fan before I ever enlisted, and also Conan the Barbarian. Great comic series. So I knew I wanted to do one, but it's such a monster of a thing to start taking on. It's so hard to do a graphic novel unless you're doing it full time. And so I never really got a chance to do it. I was going to school. I was working on Terminal Lance, et cetera. And it was just a thing that was never going to happen. But then I graduated, and I graduated in the summer of 2013. Mm-hmm. Finished my degree in 3 years because I had some transfer credits from Portland Community College. And I graduated at the worst possible time with an animation degree because that summer, Rhythm and Hues collapsed, and it sort of brought the whole animation industry down with it. And the people that don't know anything about animation don't really know about the business insides of it. But essentially what happened was Rhythm and Hues took a lot of VFX contracts for Life of Pi. And Life of Pi, the movie Life of Pi, I'm sure you know, they took on contracts for it and they ended up going bankrupt. and it was this whole scandal, not really a scandal, but it sort of like their studio went bankrupt, and then it sort of crashed the animation industry because they were the lowest bidder, and then, you know, other people could no longer be the lowest bidder, and it was sort of like people couldn't pay people, and it was just, oh my God, this is crazy. There were layoffs everywhere, and nobody was hiring in the summer of 2013. So I graduated CCA with an animation degree, top of my class, with distinction, and I just couldn't get a job in animation at all. So I had to think of something else. I had my audience with Terminal Lance, and I was like, hey, you know, this book, if I can lock myself into that, get some money for it, and like just do it, then let's do that. Why not? That's a job. Let's do it. So then I did the Kickstarter. I was like, let's try it. I don't know. Either people want to see it or they don't. So I'm going to put it in front of them, and they'll make that decision, I guess. So we did the Kickstarter, and I asked for $20,000, and then within 13 hours, I woke up the next morning, and we had already blown past that.
That's
and
insane.
We ended up raising $162,000 over the 30 days, which is good because there's no way I would have finished that book on $20,000 because it was it's such a big monster of a book, and it took me so long to do it that that was a silly amount of money to think I was actually going to be able to make the book on that.
Yeah, were you just looking at like publishing costs and be like, oh yeah, it'll be straight up.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really think about the idea that, oh yeah, this is going to take me like a full year to do, and I have to live and function and like, you know, then print the book and get it distributed, et cetera. So it was kind of stupid, but hey, it worked out.
I gotta tell you, you should be teaching MBA courses,
right?
Realistic. I mean, like brand continuity and how to get something out to market and identify market. I mean, it's fantastic. And when you were doing White Donkey, and one thing that I hear from a lot of veterans when they're out is that there's a lot of small thinkers around them that they just feel like they have to shirk off. Is that something that you ran into?
What do you mean by small thinkers?
Small thinkers, people will tell you just can't be done.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. I'm a really ambitious guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I joined the Marine Corps to be a better artist. How stupid is that? So, because I follow my passion, I really do, and that's just how I am, and that's how I've always been. And my goal is to start and own and operate my own animation studio. And the White Donkey even comes into this as like a controversial thing because I'm in Hollywood right now. Not literally, but when I say Hollywood, I just mean the film industry. And, you know, I'm repped, and I have conversations all the time with big agencies like UTA and CAA and these guys. And like every time I bring it up, like I want to make the White Donkey the world's first fully animated, rated R war movie, American made. No one's ever done it before. And they can't wrap their head around it. They're like, why? Nobody is going to do that. No one's going to give you $20 million to make that movie. So that's been an uphill fight for me ever since I moved down to LA. And that's really all I've been trying to accomplish since I moved down to LA is making that movie and getting that whole ball rolling. So I run into that all the time right now. One thing that was really weird, and it's weird that you bring this up because it's one of those things that I don't really think about very often, but I took this trip to... I got invited out by, I think it was SVA, the Student Veterans of America, to Texas for a thing outside of Dallas. And it was at some kind of like business MBA convention.
Okay.
Something for like business students.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the thing. And they invited me out because I had just done the Kickstarter for the White Donkey. And they wanted to do a thing on crowdfunding. So they're like, oh, you'd be perfect for this panel on crowdfunding. You can talk to the MBA students about crowdfunding and all this stuff. When I got there, I was there for like 2 nights, I think. And, you know, I had to do my panel and then I had to do, you know, the dinner or whatever. And I don't think I've ever wanted to drink more in my life, being surrounded by MBA students. Like as an artist.
What's the ROI?
Yeah, like I'm so motivated by passion and they're so motivated by money that it bothered me. And I was like, I didn't want to be there. I was like, I felt really uncomfortable actually, like on a real level. Because they're like, oh, if I kickstart a project, I can have, you know, this much money and whatever and investors and all the shit. And I'm like, you know, they don't care about the thing. They just care about the money and how they're going to make it work and whatever, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's a smart thing, right? But as somebody that's so driven by passion, and the only reason I did it was because I'm an artist and I wanted to make something and I didn't care about the money. it just I felt gross being there. I just felt like, ugh, it's not my crowd at all. And I'd just gotten out of art school too, and art students are really more my crowd. And like, I was very used to that sort of vibe of like creative people. And I'd never been around a bunch of MBA students, and I was like, I just really didn't want to be there after like my panel, but I had to stick around for like a dinner or something like that. And I just started drinking. I was like, yeah, whatever. Hey guys, go for it.
Yeah, like you guys can go talk about margins somewhere else.
Yeah,
please.
I just there's something about it that was really bothering, like just fundamentally.
So how do you combat that? Is it just literally you do what you did there and just kind of separate yourself from it, or is there something that you do to like take you through that when you feel yourself being surrounded by these people? What does that look like?
I don't know. I think that for people that tell me that it can't be done, I don't believe them. I know it can be done personally, and like I look at Walt Disney as a big inspiration for me, and I think Disney as a company now is a long way away from where Walt Disney wanted it to be. And I love Walt Disney as a person. And when I say Walt Disney, I mean the person. I don't mean the company.
Yeah.
Walt Disney was an amazing guy. He was a visionary. Did you know that he holds the world record for Academy Awards?
I did not know that.
He has 50-something.
That's insane.
I don't know if it's 50-something. But Disney, he personally has a ton of Academy Awards. Because back then, they're making Snow White, and they're making all these revolutionary things because he said, I think this will work. And you need visionaries. You need people that can look at something a different way, like your Steve Jobs, your Walt Disneys, et cetera, and be confident in themselves when everybody else is going, well, no one's ever done that,
Yeah.
But that's the point. No one's ever done it. How would you know if it's going to work or not? But if you do it right, and you're confident in what you're doing and you can make it work. So for me, I get a lot of roadblocks. I get a lot of people telling me it can't be done. And I have goalposts. And when people get in my way, I just move to the side and I go past them. So it's always about figuring out a new way, a new path, stepping stones, just finding the right thing. It's like a game of chess. You just got to kind of play it right and keep moving forward toward the thing. If that makes any sense. And that's
it absolutely does.
That's my overarching view on life is like I have my goals, and anything that gets in my way, I'm going to sidestep and I'm going to move forward.
Yeah. Henry Ford says something very similar. I mean, there's a famous Henry Ford quote where he talks, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses.
Exactly. And, it's not to say that I'm a genius or something like that, but it's just like, I just think that people need to, I don't know, you got to take risks and you got to do things that no one's ever done before. And that's what I want to do. And that's sort of what I've always tried to do.
Let me ask you this, because you said last night that you believe that you should write the story that you want to see.
Yeah.
And you also talked a lot about empathy, both for your characters and presumably the audience.
Yeah.
How do you handle it when there's a conflict between what you want to see versus maybe what the audience wants?
I don't, that's a good question. I don't think personally about what the audience wants.
Okay.
I don't believe in catering to the audience. Okay. I believe in making the thing that needs to get made, and the audience will come to it if it's good, if you do it right. Empathy is an interesting thing to bring up because this is something that's been very recent for me. My new book has a Black main character, and this was super important to me because I believe representation matters. And I had never, again, I make the thing that I want to see. You make the thing that you want to see. And so I had never seen a good military story with a Black main character. I'd never seen it. I don't know. Like every major, military film, aside from like, some Denzel Washington movie 20 years ago or something. But like modern warfare, infantry, that kind of thing, I'd never seen a Black main character. And so I decided my next book is a Black main character. And, of course, the obvious question is how can you write a Black guy? Like you're not Black. And it's like, well, I don't think the guy that wrote The Martian actually went to Mars either. So, you figure it out, but you got to get in that headspace. And you have to have that empathy to really see the world from that point of view. And as a mental exercise, I think it was really good because I guess as a white dude, I never really thought about the world from that perspective. I never tried to. I've never like really put myself in that position. I think everybody sort of on a surface level knows, the struggles of Black Americans, and we all get taught the Martin Luther King stuff and all the civil rights and these things, but like to really put yourself in those shoes for the 15 months that I was working on this book, for working with a Black main character, and like really feel every emotion that he feels. It became a really interesting exercise because I would agree that I don't think I could write a story about the experience of being Black. But this story is not that. The story is a military story with a Black main character. And but I found as I was writing it, I could not separate his Blackness from the story. And I couldn't get away from it, because his worldview is so informed by the fact that he's Black, and his experiences are all based on that truth. And so everything had to be looked through that lens of what that feels like. And so that's where empathy came in. It was really understanding what that must feel like. If I was that person, what would I feel like? And that's how I wrote that character.
Was there any moment of doubt when you made this decision? I mean, where you're just like, I don't know.
I think that I still have that, but I believe in the work that I did, and I'm excited for the book to come out, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I can't predict how people are going to react. I think that it comes from a place of honesty, and again, it's my empathy going, what must this be like? And that's sort of how I view it. I think it's kind of silly to expect that I can only write stories about white Jewish guys, like that. You can only do stories about white Jewish guys. And then it's sort of like, I thought about that too. I'm like, am I allowed to do this? I don't know. But then I started thinking about these lines in the sand, and they became increasingly arbitrary the more I thought about it. And I was like, no, it's okay. Just do it. Do your best, and we'll see what happens.
One of the things that I have been most impressed by, and I think a lot of people, because I have a bunch of friends that are into your stuff, and we've talked about it a lot of times, and I'm most blown away by the fact that each successive step that you take is a fundamental shift from what you've done before. How do you prevent yourself from becoming formulaic? I know you've talked about that just a little bit. How do you prevent that from creeping in, where you're just like, well, I've done this, I can do it again?
I don't know. I mean, for me, I never want to do the same thing over again. And I just sort of, I have new ideas and I want to do the new thing. I get really bored really, really quick. The fact that I've kept Terminal Lance going for this long is really weird, honestly. No, I kept Terminal Lance going this long because I love Marines, and I love Lance Corporals, and I love the humor of it. And it's been great. It's been good to me. It's been a weird experience, traveling all over the place. But I don't know, for me, every new project is fundamentally different, and I just try to embrace that and do that thing to the best of that thing's potential, at least as good as I can, as I can do it. This book the new book, Battleborn, is very different from the White Donkey. It's full color. It's in Afghanistan. It's a totally different thing. Black main character, new characters, new everything, and it's a shift. It's not like a night and day difference from the White Donkey, but it's enough of a difference that it was fun and fresh and a new way to kind of think about making things. And it's always about evolution. I don't know. You can't get stuck in anything. You gotta just kind of always be looking at the next thing and how is that going to help you toward the ultimate goal.
Oh, well, I think it's obvious that you like to take risks.
Yeah, that's if I'm nothing, I'm at least risky. So maybe that's why I went infantry.
Yeah, maybe. So in terms of risk, is there one risk that you've taken, and it could be maybe something we've already talked about, is there one that just stands out in your mind, this is my favorite risk that I took because either it blew up in your face or it worked? I mean,
I think Terminal Lance was the risk, and that I don't think people now, 10 years later, or 9 years later, it's quaint, Terminal Lance, it's there, but it's been there for so long that people, it's like an institution in itself. People don't know that it actually started at some point, and it was small and underground, and it was a risk. It was a huge risk because I was still active duty. I still had I started it in January of 2010, and I got out in May. So I had at least 5 months left on my contract, but I put it out there. And, the consequences be damned. And I put my name on it. It wasn't like a lot of things now are like anonymous and all that stuff. And I don't believe in that. I'm like, look, I'll accept the risk and I'll accept the reward either way. So that's the benefit, though. You take a risk, but you put your name on it and maybe it'll pay off. Who knows? But that was a risk. I really thought I was going to get in trouble for a long time. But, ultimately it was a risk that was worth doing. It blew up and in a good way and became the monster that it is today.
That's absolutely incredible. I remember when I saw the first one, I couldn't believe my eyeballs. I was like, what? What happened?
Yeah.
And now it's in the Marine Corps Times, is it not?
Yeah. It's been in the Marine Corps Times almost as long as it's been out. I think the first one went in the Marine Times like in November of 2010. So it was probably like 11, 10 months after it launched. We started publishing it in the paper, and it's been there ever since. And still work with them every week. And it's been a long, weird road, but it's been a lot of fun. But you got to take risks, and that's I believe in that. I really do. I think people get really comfortable, they get safe. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'd rather just take the dive and see if I make it. The one thing that I've caught myself saying, no one's ever pointed it out to me, but I always catch myself saying it, is we'll see what happens. That's like sort of my motto that I live by is like, I'm just going to do it and we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I think that's true. I think especially if you find yourself on the fence, should I do it? Should I not do it? And one of the questions, I'm sure, should I write this book? Should I not?
Yeah. I was, and like with The White Donkey, it's a risky book. It was different. It was very brutal. And there's some very real stuff that happens in the book. I don't want to give away spoilers, but there's some brutal stuff that happens in the book, and it's never been depicted before, not as violently and as realistically in any movie that I've ever seen. But I needed to do it and take that risk of people maybe getting mad about it or whatever. I needed to do it for the story. And I'm always willing to put my name on it, and I'm always willing to stand behind it and say, I made this decision because I believed in it. And that's, I don't know, maybe like when I was a kid, I soaked up all that Captain America propaganda, like, do what you believe in and all the stuff and follow your dreams. And I took it seriously. And maybe that's my problem, is that I actually took it seriously. And I've never seen something that I didn't think I could do. Like, people are like, oh, I'd never be able to do that. I just got into this on Twitter. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about how, I grew up in rural Oregon, and now, I'm living in LA. I'm doing great. Got books. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. And I'm like, it's the American dream. Like, anybody can do this. Mm-hmm. But then people are like, oh, no, you can't. Not everybody can. People get so offended that I said that.
Shit. So much.
But to me, like, I look at everything and I'm just like, there's nothing that, if I really wanted to, I wouldn't be able to do it. There's some things that I'm just unable to do. I mean, and I know that about myself. I'm terrible at basketball. I'm never going to beat, anybody on the field, on the basketball court. I'm terrible. I'm the worst. I'm the whitest basketball guy you'll ever see in your life. I cannot make a basket to save my life. So that's the thing I can't do, but I'm not like, trying to do that either. Yeah. On a practical level, I believe I can make the world's first animated rated R war movie. There's no reason why I shouldn't believe it. Why wouldn't I be able to do that? You meet the right people, you talk to people, you convince them, and you get them on board, and we make a movie. Like, why is it so difficult?
Yeah.
It's been difficult, but I still don't believe it's not going to happen. So maybe it's belief. Maybe that's the key message here. You just gotta.
I think that's where the existential crisis comes from for a lot of people, is that they did believe something and they allowed themselves to stop.
Yeah.
And then they come away from that. And that's my 2 cents on it, or based off of what I've seen, because I've been interviewing vets for 5 years now, just for my own purposes. Like, what is this element that rips people's soul out? And I think it's because they gave that up.
Yeah. I don't know. And to the Marine Corps' benefit, like, I really do feel like the Marine Corps helped me in some ways be a more stubborn person, like, but really believe that I can pretty much do anything. Yeah. Like, because that's the whole thing in boot camp, right? Is like, you keep going until you do it. You just make it happen. Like, and I just live by that. I'm just like, just make it happen. I don't know. I'll figure a way out. We'll see what happens.
My best friend from the Marines has a saying that I absolutely love. And this, he just says, they can't eat you. Right. Anytime I call him complaining about something or like, I'm not sure if I can do it. And he's like, no, man, they can't eat you. And that to me is just like the most profound piece of advice that just hangs into my head all the time.
Yeah. It's similar to the advice of the worst thing somebody can say is no. Yeah. So don't eat yourself up about everything. See, if they can't eat you, you're going to eat yourself. That's the problem, right?
That's a good add-on.
We're making new metaphors here.
That's a new add-on. I'm going to have to tattoo that on me immediately. That's my new moto tat. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground here today, and you're a busy man, and I know you've got to go. But how can people get a hold of you? So you got a lot of stuff out there, right? We got Terminal Lance on Instagram, Terminal Lance on Facebook. What else?
I mean, if people need to get a hold of me, want to reach out to me, for whatever reason, I'm on all the social medias. I'm pretty active on Twitter and Instagram. I've got personal and Terminal Lance profiles on all those things, and the Facebook page is still popping. So whatever, I check them all and I read all of the stuff. I don't always respond to everything, but I do read pretty much everything everybody sends me. It's hard for me to get through the 200 DMs on Instagram a day, but I just scroll through and I find like the funny videos and stuff and pull them out and see what's going on. But
if they want to get a copy of White Donkey, where should they look?
The White Donkey, as well as my publisher would appreciate it if I pointed this out, the Terminal Lance Ultimate Omnibus are on shelves everywhere books are sold, or at least most places, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. You can get those. Just look them up, the White Donkey or Terminal Lance. And you can find those there. And look forward to my new book, hopefully in the winter, either late this year or very, very early next year.
Awesome. Maximilian, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Spotlight Podcast. And I just wanted to take a second to ask you who you think should be interviewed on the show. Who do you think is out there that's just absolutely crushing it that the veteran population needs to hear from? That's what we want to hear from you. Send us your suggestions to spotlight@thezenveteran.com. That's SPOTLIGHT @thezenveteran.com. Thanks again for listening.